All right, welcome everybody to today's workshop here at Society
It's
Gal.
been busy. I know you.
Oop. There we go. We are so excited to have you here with us today. And we're going to talk about the art of active listening. And we have Alyssa here today. She has so much great knowledge on sales. And hopefully you're either streaming from YouTube or you're coming on in our Zoom call to discuss and get live mentorship. So we're going to hand it over to Alyssa and we're going to go ahead and get started.
Yay! Thank you so much, Dana, for having me in here. I've known Society Gal for years and years and years. I think since my first year in business in 2016. So I'm so happy that I get to be a part of this community and know you guys. All right, so we're going to talk about the art of active listening, and I will dive right in. Just for a very brief background, my name is Alyssa Moorhead. I run Nerve Client Studio, and I've been doing it for 9 years. I have dived all around the business world for sales, and then finally landed in actually doing sales after I realized that everything in our business kind of contributes to sales, which is keeping the business going. All right, I will dive in. So we're going to talk about the importance of active listening in sales, as well as different techniques that you guys can do to actually improve how you're taking sales actions. I will say something that I say a lot in my content here, which is that really what sales requires is time. Time and duration. As we put time in and talk to people, which is what sales is down to its very essence, we get better and better at it. So if you can put in a little time each workday or most workdays, over duration, you're going to get better and better and better. So, we're going to talk about while you're spending that time, what are some techniques with active listening that we can do to improve how it feels for you, how it feels for the people you're speaking with, and ultimately also gets us new clients so we can help those people further than just direct message conversations or emails, etc. And we're going to talk about the part that I just mentioned too, which is how to use active listening to close deals and close sales and get new clients. Specifically, I'll say this right at the top that lead generation and sales is primarily about them, not you. So we're providing an experience and guiding them through the decision of whether or not we're going to be a good fit together, but it's mostly about them. And we're going to talk about how you can give the time and take actions that feel good to you to get those people into your community so you can help them further. Okay, so the importance of active listening. Active listening is so important, and I am a talker. I have always been since I was a very small child. And with sales, we also need to listen. So, really, we're trying to give people the information, the support, answer questions that they need, but mostly it is about listening to them. Again, this is about them. So, we hit the nail on the head here in terms of the way that I see sales is a talking to people that we're selling to them to help them. Selling is helping because once we get them into a paid offer, we can help them much more. But really, my entire perspective on sales goes to building relationships. I used this analogy yesterday in the last day or two when I was on a call. And think about, like, in terms of a relationship with a potential client for us, if we think about like a friend we have from college or middle school or wherever you may have met them, as we get older and busier, I learn more and more that relationships take work. They take positive work, they take sacrifice, they take energy, time, continued effort. And I would say that your leads and your business relationships are no different. So we want to build relationships with people, we want to value people. And again, that comes back to time and energy and giving so that we can help people further. Also, we are identifying pain points. So I have a process that I can mention through here and talk to you guys about more afterwards. Dana, our lovely host, and I are trying to keep the presenting piece of this to about 15 minutes. So I can mention it and then we can talk through it further afterwards. But pain points is a big piece of sales, both in our content publicly, by talking about what we think people's pain points are if we don't know yet. But really, we want to be doing market research, which is to say, having conversations to find out right now, today. Rowan is in our Zoom call with us today. So find out example, if Rowan is a lead for you, we want to find out what is Rowan struggling with right now. Because what she's struggling with right now or what struggle she may have could be different than last week, last month. Her level of frustration with those struggles may have changed. She's using different language potentially. So we want to identify those pain points, and then we can talk about it publicly in our content and also talk to people and help them find ways to work through it and make an action plan in our private conversations as well, be it emails, networking events, co-workings, rooms like this, Instagram DMs, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. And if we're actually listening to our customers, our clients, then we can make them even happier so they stay on. I will say too, just a couple notes that I have for you all, that my perspective on sales is about humans, is about relationships. In my own business, I've kind of used the term for a little while now of human first sales, which is again to say that if we can reframe some of the sales trauma and ongoing promotions that we get every single day from every single communication, every email, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, text, SMS, voicemails, everybody that's selling to us, if we can reframe some of the ways we've been sold to and instead decide and commit to the fact that selling is helping rather than people who are just trying to make a dollar off of us and maybe don't know us at all, kind of like all the email pitches I get every single day, that's really helpful for my community. I also really believe in permission-based sales. So we could be talking to somebody about their pain points. If they don't want to talk about their pain points, or if they're not willing to open up, or if you're asking them to tell you everything about them, or maybe just even everything about their business, but you won't share a little bit about your own struggles or how you've helped other people with the same, it can feel like an unsafe space, which is not what we want in terms of a sales conversation, a relationship, a growing relationship. So, in order to make our leads feel safe so we can lead them through a decision, I want you guys to find the best way for you to create a safe space for them and to utilize permission, which Dana and I talk about this too, in terms of like not just talking about at high level, but actually in action. If I'm talking to someone, I might ask them about their goals and struggles and share some of mine so they feel that I'm willing to be vulnerable so that they can be vulnerable. When I want to ask Molly, for example, if she's interested in my offer that could help her with her struggles that she's having to get to the goal she wants to get to, I would ask Molly. So if Molly's talking about the goals that she has and she's having A, B, C struggles to get there, I would ask Molly, like, oh, Molly, I totally understand that you're going through this and that. I know that we want to get to this place. Either myself or clients I've helped, you could talk about either or both, have dealt with the same struggles and made progress or gotten to that goal. Would you want to talk about how that could maybe work for you too? And then it's Molly's choice, right? She can say yes, no, maybe, maybe later, and we can go from there. So that's just a little bit of like an action for permission-based sales. But really, as we help move with a lead through like a buying journey and deciding if they want to work with you or not, we want to continually be asking, again, listening and asking for their feedback. Like, is this still priority for you? Do you have any concerns? Do we want to talk about next steps? Are there any questions before we move forward? We're asking where they're at so we can provide the best experience for them. And the last thing I'll say on this is that, we have all kinds of thoughts about sales, and I did say sales trauma for a reason. There's so many people selling to most of us all of the time, but most of my community over the last 9 years, my clients, my paid group members, will get to a point at some point in their business, whether it's year 1 or year 10, that they have clients. They're booked up or they're as booked and busy as they would like to be. Then, historically, for all of them, we either stop selling or we significantly decrease the amount of time, energy, and action we're putting into it. But here's the tea. We have to make sales to stay in business in the long run. Unless you all have like one big client and they're going to be your client for the rest of your natural life or your career, then at some point, maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, maybe in 3 years, you're going to need a new client. So we want to, I'm a female identifying person. As a woman, there's always balance, right? So we need to make sales to stay in business, even if we have clients right now, even if we have a full client roster. What about next month? What about 6 months? What about 3 years down the line? I say 3 years because I just had a client come back to me from 3 years ago. And, because I stayed in touch with her, she's going to come back. So we need to find a way for you guys to sell and actively listen to leads, which also means we have to be speaking to people that we could work with. So I want you guys to find a way for you that sales feels good, you can keep doing it, and ideally gets to a point that it's fun so that we can keep our businesses going. I'm going to take a drink of water. 1 second. Okay, so great topic here. So, sales conversations, a lot of the reasons that they're successful or not is hidden in the words your customers say. This can mean lots of different things. A piece of it is just that we want to be echoing and listening to what our clients or customers are saying and repeating it back to them. We also can use this same information in our content so that we're using the actual language that they use. And then last but not least, we can talk about here too the root objection. So, a lot of what I have a program running right now, a lot of what the people in my sales program for the summer hear is time. So I was saying sales takes time. Time is our most invaluable resource. And when we get to the point where Rowan and I potentially, if it was a conversation between us, if we're talking about working together, eventually the majority of my savvy buyers, at least, are going to ask a question or have a concern or want clarification on something, right? We can call these questions, objections, etc. But really, we need to make sure they're confident to move to the next step for both of us. So we make sure we're a good fit before we lock in a contract together. So, in terms of it being a successful conversation, you making sales, a lot of what myself and my community members in my group are getting right now is it's not the right time, or I don't have the time, or I'm in another program, or I don't know if I could even put in the bulk work to get us onboarded, like whatever you need from me so that you could help me take less time off or take more time off my plate later. So if we look at their language and then ask for clarification ourselves and listen to the answer, we can get to the root of what they really want. And I'm going to talk about this more in a couple minutes, but the words that they're saying often is just the top level. And then if we can be vulnerable, if we can make a safe space for them, we can go deeper. So, for example, again, it's a real world example on what to do. If I'm talking to someone and they say, this just happened for me. So if I'm talking to someone, a client of mine, Megan, who's an incredible bookkeeper, one of the most unique I've ever met. I'm talking to Megan. She was potentially thinking of joining my group program, but she told me that she's already in another program. Her summer life and business is already busy. She's just not sure she has, again, time. She's not sure she has time to join one more program. And to this, we talked about like what the other programs are helping with, how much time it would take to work on this goal together, and how much of a priority this is to her. But a lot of people will just stop or think they're pushing if someone says like, I'm not sure I have time for this. Then we want to go back to the hidden words that they say, which is kind of, is this really a priority for you? If this is a massive priority for Dana, if not now, when? Like I said at the beginning, sales takes time. It's not just the time today and tomorrow and next week. The reason I have continual leads coming to me pretty much every single day, every other day, is because I've been doing this for 9 years. I continually keep talking to people, keep listening to them, keep checking in on them. So if we're getting, these kinds of responses in the messages, if we're talking about objections as a general topic, if someone says, really any objection, we can go deeper into this. If they say they're not sure if they have time or they're not sure if it will make them the money that they need from it or whatever it may be, we want to go back to what we will talk about again in our conversation. We go back to this kind of trajectory of figuring out what it is they want. So, how big of a priority is this for you? When do you want to get this done by? If it needs to, or you want it to be done by this time, how can we talk about the time it will take, the duration it will take to make it work for you, which can even be like customizing your offer. For Megan, for example, she tells me an objection that is, I'm not sure if I have time. My summer is busy and I'm already in another offer. But then we continually kept talking about, kind of in my mind, out of the realm of a sales conversation, we kept talking about the fact that sales was a big priority for her and she wasn't taking daily actions on it that she was seeing results on. And so eventually, because sales was still a priority, we found out a way to make it's, a small amount of time for her to get her where she wanted to go. Okay, I'll try to go a little bit faster. So active listening techniques, the 80-20 rule, as we've been talking about, we want to be listening more than we're speaking, which I'm going to try to practice by wrapping up the presentation piece in a few minutes. Echoing is really important. I would add detail to this that's basically like we want to be speaking in our client's language or ideal client's language. This can be literally, listening and then echoing back the language that they've used. And it also can be like using that language in terms of like storytelling and analogies, both in your content and when you're talking to people one-on-one in the DMs. And we can get into that further in a little bit. Personalized solutions. So lots of female identifying entrepreneurs I work with have all kinds of feelings about the word pitching. But if we're talking to someone that's a potential client, I would say that yes, 100% we need to be tailoring it to them. For those of you that are listening, for clarification, I primarily work with people that are selling high ticket or mid ticket, which for me means something above $500 to $1,000 up to 10K, 20K, 50K potentially per package, 200K. So I would say simply that if you want to be working with this specific person and you are going to be working with them if they do sign, you need to give the same care to them before they become a client as you'll give them after they become a client, which is to say that we don't copy and paste, hey, Rowan, hey, Dana, hey, Molly, I've got an offer. Do you want to buy it? We don't do that to people. I can tell you guys more about this in our conversations as well, but I have pitched people that I sort of kind of tangentially knew, actually from Dana and I were talking about the COVID days. Actually, from the COVID days, a client of mine, Jordan Gill, I went to her conference back in 2020 and I saw she was having another one in person and I sent her a pitch, I guess. But basically, I was like excited about it. I was like, you're doing this thing again, but in person, I really, really want to help. I know I could do a great job. Do you want to talk about it? But that was customized completely to her. It wasn't a cold pitch that I sent to 100 people. It was genuine passion, confidence, and willingness to help and take the time to see if she wanted that. Okay, active listening to close the sale. So yes, we want your offer to be the solution. And I really like a phrase that a somebody that I know from Instagram, Erica Reitman uses, which is a category of one. If you can take all of the passion and excitement and confidence, even though we have rocky days for your offer, but really for the people that you help, for what you can help those people do, and talk about that both publicly in your content and privately in one-on-one conversations, you can be the solution. This is why, for me, for my clients, for some of you, I would imagine people will come back after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, because I'm the solution. And also, I might be the person that cares the most. I want them to win pretty much as they want them to win, or they want themselves to win. And painting the picture of the solution that they desire. So this would really be like paying attention to what they are paying attention to. So this is when I was talking about like the lead gen process I go through is rapport building, goals and struggles, solutions, and then questions and next steps. So this is why when we're rapport building, when we're doing goals and struggles at the beginning of a conversation, and this is free form. I want to say that too. I don't want you guys to have a checklist and ask everybody question one, question two, question three, question four. These are humans. We're not that black and white. But, anyways, for the picture of the solution that they desire, this is why we talk about cats and dogs and where we live and the weather and our baby's name and what our cat did today. Because I want to get to know someone enough to know, like, let's say Rowan wants to make an extra $3,000 this month, but why? The why is so important to keep us going. The why for so many female entrepreneurs is like, I want to help people. which is my number one mission. And also, if we do help them and we make those sales too, what does it change in our life? What kinds of opportunities does it open up for someone to work with you? We go to core desires here, but their core desires, the solution, the desires they want. If someone works with Dana, do they get more time? Do they get, this is such a buzzword or buzz phrase right now, more white space on their calendar? Do they get to spend more time with their friends and family? Do they get to make more money? Do they get to save for a college kid's tuition, et cetera, et cetera? If we're talking about the solution that they desire, are they going to save time, make money, have more confidence, get more clarity, feel less stress, have more peace? These are things that people want. And then also overcoming objections, which we just talked about a little bit, but the majority, I would imagine, of my community over the last 9 years, if someone says, I'm not sure I can afford it, or I'm not sure if I have time, a lot of this is like, I'm not sure. Can you help me figure it out? I don't know, right? So there's to me a difference between objections and a conversation stopper. An objection would be like, this is simple. An objection would be, I'm not sure if I have the funds, or I'm not sure if I have time for this. I'm doing A, B, and C. A conversation stopper would be Dana telling me, I absolutely don't have the money right now for even your like entry level, your starting rate. Or if someone tells me, I'm slammed, there's no way I could make time for this. I can't even get back to our messages. Those are conversation stoppers. That's when we say like, I totally understand. Let me know if you want to check back. I support you in what you're going through, but there's a difference for me there. Okay, let's talk about actions, my favorite part, and improving your active listening skills. So, a couple different things I'll tell you all here. I'm just looking down at my notes. Call and response is a phrase I started using in the last week, really, which is to say that your content plan for a busy summer, or whether your summer is busy or not, just a fruitful one in terms of making money and getting new really amazing clients, your content plan and what you do on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, email, YouTube, wherever you may be, could literally be as simple as you talking to one or two or three people that are people you could and want to help, and taking the topics you all are talking about and turning them into content. That's like the definition for me of active listening. It will have your content, your conversations, your leads buying like hotcakes. When you speak in their exact language from conversations you're actively having, it's crazy. So that's one thing that I do all the time, specifically again for how I actually do it. I take screenshots of like so many screenshots each day. I take screenshots from emails, from Instagram DMs, from content that I see, but really mostly for me, it's DMs. But wherever I'm having one-on-one conversations with people that would be an ideal client, I will take screenshots of it, not to like copy and paste what Dana says and share that without her permission, but to take the topics that weren't confidential things that are business that we know will help other people, that would help potentially that lead if they saw you go further into it. So if you can talk to people that you would love to be ideal clients and use that for your content and to go further with them in one-on-one conversations, it will make a world of difference. Um, yeah.
Oh, can
What
we go back to
challenges? Go ahead.
the
Yes.
yeah, discussion? Yeah. Um, yeah, because this is a discussion point I think is really great, of how to improve our active listening skills. Um, I always love, like, for example, I have a photo video company, and with sales calls, I mean, you've probably said a lot of this already, but another example of how we do it on a sales call with a couple, right, is a lot of people feel like sales are sleazy. I think it's a really big thing, especially with women. I think it's
Uh-huh.
a bigger problem we feel like we have. And I think when you look at it as, I need to sell you something, here's my price, then it becomes this icky feeling when you approach it that way. And I love how this whole time you've been talking about approaching a human first approach when you're approaching with serving. And that's something we do very similar on our sales call is we understand what they, their day, their details, right? They want, the pre-wedding cocktail hour reception, right? They have 100 guests. They have, right, a bridal party of 10, right? They have all these details. But the most important question we ask them is, what are your priorities when you see your gallery? Like when you see your photo gallery, when you see your video gallery, what do you want to feel? What do you want to remember when you look at that? And a lot of people don't know. And so it's a really great question to get them thinking. And then they start understanding, okay, I want to see my family. I want to see grandma. I want to see, things that are happening that I'm not there for, right? Because they're not going to be around the whole day. I want to see my story told of the whole day and remember, actually be able to remember it and live it again. And so what we do is that mirroring, I think that's what we talked about, the echoing, where you have them sell it for you, which is them telling them, they tell you what they want. And then we talk about our approach, which is the same exact thing that they just said, which is, oh, well, we approach it the very similar way, right? We prioritize family, we prioritize, right, the details, the beauty is beautiful for a gallery, a photo gallery for your wedding. But what's going to matter most 10 years from now is your family, your friends, your interactions with them. And we show them a gallery, showing them what they just said in the gallery to make it visual as well. But when I learned that technique for sales, I mean, those calls just felt great. Like if I gave them all the information that they needed and we are what they want. But again, there's other things that may come up that they can't book us, but at least I know I gave them all the information and I gave them all the opportunity to understand if this is the right choice for them as a couple. And so that approach just feels like really good, really ethical, right? Just really a great approach to it that not every single couple, for example, our business is not for us. Not every single couple is going to be the right person, for us, for them, and to just let it know we did our best and then let the rest kind of come into fruition. So I want to give that example of how we do echoing in our sales calls for that, and feels really good.
Yeah, I love that. And you're making me think about my brother and his fiance's upcoming wedding in Austin and who they're going to have shoot it. So those were great recommendations. I'm taking mental notes. I love the phrase that Dana used about like them selling it for you, which is to say, at this point, I'm really happy with where my sales are this year, even though they're totally different than last year. And with the sales that I have right now, I've done two sales calls this year. So I've done very few, and I actually love them as well. But regardless of where you all are closing the sale, I tell people this too. Sales is the same really everywhere. So I do done for you lead gen and I do like sales and lead gen coaching and lots of other things. And when people are asking me for like lead gen questions, they're like, if they're doing it, if I'm doing it, whoever is doing it, they're like, what's the difference between what you do for lead gen on Instagram versus Facebook versus LinkedIn versus a networking event versus an online conference and my answer, and I've really simplified my messaging about how I talk about sales this year. Sales is really the same anywhere, which is that we're getting to know people and seeing if we want to help and seeing if they want that help. So, in terms of like pre-selling, whether it's a sales call or a DM, I was going to say, like, by the time for me, I get somebody on a sales call, whether it's last year or this year or whatever, I know that they're like 99% going to buy. So Dana said, like, they're selling it for you, but I know them and what they want so well. And we respect each other's time that we're not getting on the call unless like thing X I'm helping with is a major priority for them, at least in their business, and they want to make it happen pretty soon, or we have a date on when they do want to. Another thing that crushes it for me on sales calls that I've actually done sales calls with my clients last year as well. So I had done for you sales clients with big contracts, and we would book sales calls for them and then either do them for them or with them sometimes. And the one reason I would have my clients come to a sales call, and what I would recommend you all also are doing on yours, is listening to the types of things they're talking about for what they want, as Dana said, and then talking about clients you've helped that are the most similar to them. So whether I'm leading a sales call or a client is with me or one of you is leading it, if I'm talking to someone, I had this come up today, if I'm talking to somebody that's a potential PR client for me, I'll talk to them about all of the PR clients that I've helped before. So we're telling a very similar story. We listen to what they want, who they are, and talk to them about other people we've helped just like them. A lot of times they have a lot of the same struggles.
Yeah, I like that. I really do. Because when we got on a sales call, for example, again, the example of a photo video team with a couple, when you talk about, oh, this is typical, this hour coverage is typical for our other couples because of this hour coverage is typical for this type of couple because of this. And a lot of couples be like, oh, I just didn't know. Like, that feels really good to know other people are doing it, or other people, it's typical for other people, or, and they feel more because wedding planning, no one's done it before. And so
Yeah.
it's all new, everything's new. And so, positioning yourself as an expert, right? And saying, well, all of our other clients do this typical, it makes people feel good about their decision as well, knowing that someone similar in their situation has done the same thing and gotten good results. So I love that.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, it's about the positives and the negatives. So it's easy. It's easy, and I would say probably a lot more common for me to I make a lot of sales through Instagram direct messages. So that's why I keep saying DMs. That's what I'm referring to a lot. That's where the majority of my new business comes from. I wouldn't say like the majority of my income because I have like recurring and return clients, but I do a lot on there. And wherever you're having the conversation, it's easier, I think, and more common for us to talk about all of the goals that our lead may have and other people you've gotten to that goal. So I could say to the PR lead for me, like, I understand you want to get these kinds of clients and you want to add an extra 5K in revenue each month. I've helped Christina do that too, and this person and that person. What I think is actually really connects as a human to them is not just like, I can help you get to this goal. I've helped other people get to this positive thing that you want to get to, what a goal is, right? But also underneath that, talking about all of the effing struggles that they're having to get there that you've helped other clients with or even helped yourself with as well. So not just like, I want to help you get to this goal and I've helped other clients do it, but also I was or my past or current clients have been just in the position where you are. They've had the same amount of frustration, overwhelm, X, Y, and Z struggles. You're not alone. And here's how we got out of it to get to this goal. So that part I think is really important too. And I share a lot of my own struggles too. And I love that this has become more of like a common theme on Instagram and social media of like what's behind the pretty picture. But I talk in my community about my shitty sales months and my fuck ups, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really important, I think, for our potential clients to know as well that we're talking to them about where they can get them, but also where we can help get them to, but also where they are, whether it's a pretty picture or not. Rowan, did you have anything you wanted to add? I'm not looking totally at the chat, but I don't think there's anything in there. Did you want to say anything about your active listening skills and sales and lead gen?
Yeah, so since I'm an at-home baker, so I'm more product based, so I really have to listen to my clients on like what they want or how they want things decorated or packaged, or if they have like a custom label or our design or something. So
That's
that's where
good.
more of my listening has to. So I'm trying to get better with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and two, I mean, with that level of detail, whether it's decorating something that you're baking or planning a project or a contract and action steps for someone, I'm a fastidious note taker for better or worse. I can't turn it off. It's never going to stop. I kid you not. I jump out of the shower, sans clothes, obviously, to write notes before I go back in. I flooded the floor today because I didn't close the shower door all the way. But the notes help so much with talking to leads and clients, talking to anybody that you're working with. And the notes, lead tracking and notes, again, to go back to Dana's topic she brought up of sleazy sales, lead tracking isn't just like, how soon is Rowan going to buy? How much is Rowan going to pay me? Which offer does Rowan want? The notes, for me at least, are really about them. So going back to the screenshots and note taking, if I'm having a conversation, I'll try to make this make sense. If I'm having a conversation with someone in the direct messages, I write notes in the chat, usually either on my notes like app on my phone, or like where you would reply in the direct messages. You could do this in an email, you could do this on a call, wherever. But I write notes when I'm on Instagram DMs. I write notes about like if they're sending voice notes or if they're sending text-based notes. I'll write notes back on what I want to say, organize them in a way that makes sense, like what's priority, what do I need to say first, second, third. And then I will like delete that or move it over somewhere. I can put it in the lead tracker, but I'll move it over and then I look at those notes to reply, but I have them. One of the issues with me with getting a million messages in all these places, but also voice notes on Instagram, which don't have transcripts, is that you can't go back and see what you said. We could have had a fantastic conversation. Slack has transcripts, Voxer has transcripts. Maybe one day Meta will get it together for Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn, I think, also doesn't have them. But in the meantime, we can't say everything. We can't see everything that we said in a voice note. We can't remember everything we've said in a conversation from our part or theirs. So that note taking is really helpful. Sometimes to really actively listen, I'll try to read the messages or listen to the messages again, emails, DMs, sales calls, in-person meetings, whatever. I'll try to just listen first, then take notes and reply. But I have ADHD, proud of it. So if I don't catch this idea and the three after it, I might not never be catching it again. It could be gone forever. And most of my community is neurodivergent too, or they meet me in my community and then realize they are, and then go have an evaluation and are diagnosed with ADHD very frequently. I talk about it pretty publicly, but anyways, sometimes I'll try to listen only first and then take notes, and sometimes I take notes as I listen while trying to stay present, and that actually helps me show that I listened better because I wrote the ideas that are like related to what they said. One other thing I'll say about like sales calls too, for anyone who watches now or later through sales calls, there's a piece up in my content about this, but to really help someone if we're on a call or DM convo or an email, a lot of what we're struggling with, especially during the summertime. And as a side note, summer is my busiest time for sales. As busy as summer is for most people, we want to be outside more. We want to be with friends and family. We want to have experiences. We have a summer bucket list. But actually, because summer is so busy for most people, it's also the busiest time for me for sales. So if we have found out that someone we're talking to, one of their top priorities is to get X thing done that we can help them with, to be most efficient to them, to help them with that goal that you've listened to them talk about and they want to make progress on or achieve, I would tell them before, during, and at the end of this like call, like before they get on the call, when they come to the call at the beginning, during the call, when are we trying to make a decision by? Are we just talking about this potentially for the future? Do we want to try to decide on this by today, tomorrow, next week? What's going to work for you so we can accurately define the next steps, right? I mean, people use this phrase a lot that like we left money on the table, but a lot of the leaving money on the table is just that we don't like set clear action steps for us together. I can get somebody, I just had somebody on a call last week, my birthday week last week, and I didn't set clear steps of when I was going to send the proposal afterwards, or rather, I got excited and said I was going to send it too soon. And then there was all these other team members involved. But a lot of the money is left on the table because, again, to go back to females being scared of being pushy, sleazy, we think that if I say to Rowan, like, hey, Rowan, do you think we could come back together and see where we're at with the decision in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days? A lot of times we think that's going to be pushy. But my mission in business has always been and probably always will be just about helping the people that I want to help. the way that I could best help Rowan in that situation is for us to make the best decision, with as much help as she needs from me, so we don't just have it floating around in our brain forever. So if we're actively listening to somebody and this is a big goal for them and they're trying to figure out how to make it happen, we want to figure out, can we make it happen together or not? Past mentor of mine, someone I really look up to, her name is Katie Prince. This is like 2020 COVID days when I took a bunch of courses, used to say, and she's in the UK, she used to say that like stalling on a decision is like having your bare bum on a rickety fence. I'll never forget that. I think it's so funny. But if you think about like, should I buy this cold brew maker that's on sale for Prime Day #2? I've thought about it like 4 times today. I just need to decide yes or no if I want to spend the $18. And the people that we're talking about, it's really the same thing. Like, if this is a big priority for you, let's decide so we can decrease the stress of the decision making when we're going to try to come to a conclusion on this. If you need more time, fine. If you have questions for me, we'll talk about them. It's not about pushing them. It's actually about like de-stressing the decision making and buying process. And that's all I have to
All right.
say on that.
Love that. Do you have the next discussion question?
Yes. Okay, challenges that we face when trying to practice active listening in sales conversations, and how can we overcome those? So anybody can go, whatever challenges that you're dealing with when you're talking to other humans that you would like to help.
I think having the right questions to ask people is really important when it comes to active listening and the challenges, because when you don't ask the right questions, then it doesn't get enough out of them to understand how to reciprocate, right? How to come back into the conversation. And so that's why I love this topic of active listening. I mean, it's not just about listening, it's about asking the right questions so that you get the data to listen actively. And so I think that
Yeah.
was one of the biggest challenges in the beginning, was just expecting for people to just buy or to, book us because our work looks great. But I mean, a sales process is an experience, right? It's a process. It is a strategy. It's not just, right, the active listening strategy, which we're talking about today. It's way deeper than we think, right? We can't have that. I think often we have that kind of entitlement. I know I had that more entitlement as a photographer in the beginning of just like, my work's great. So, that's just gonna show itself that it's great.
Dana,
Um,
you're like the 80th photographer to say that to me in 9 years. I've worked with lots of
yeah,
you
you're like,
all. That's a
my
common.
work's just great. That should just sell itself. And that's just not true
Yeah.
at all. And that's it, and so my sales calls in the beginning would just be me scared to even talk about a price, just like kind of getting to know their day. But like I talked about earlier about that question of, what are your priorities? Like, I want to hear what you want, so that then I can listen to that. Then I can come back and tell you how we do that same thing. So I think that was the hardest part for me, was asking the right questions
Yeah.
and understanding how to get understanding the exact question that will get the exact information I need to make the best selling point, I guess I would say, which was that feeling that someone, right, the emotions of my client specifically, that feeling, that nostalgia of their wedding day, right, the most important day of their life, feeling it from their gallery, right, reliving it from their gallery in their video, right, that's what I wanted them to feel when they answer that question or when I ask that question. And so calling in that emotional piece changed the game for my sales calls compared to before, when it was all about like logistics and like, here's the package, right? Here's the package, here's what's in it. But when you get to the emotion piece, especially my industry, right? Or my industry for my company is that's where it shifted from a challenge to, right, a win. But that was definitely challenging in the beginning for sure, to get out of that headspace.
Yeah, that's such a great topic. I just spilled water on my phone and now it's completely typing gibberish in the notes like I was just talking about that I wrote down. But yeah, I think what this gibberish is trying to say was forget the offer. I like to give crazy sounding advice and then back it up with a reason. I wrote an email today that said, if you want to make sales, stop selling. And I know that the people who received it are going to be like, what? But they're also going to read it. So forget the offer, what Dana was talking about regarding transformation customized for them. listening to what they want. I have some, if we talk about buyer types and just how humans and my humans buy, I have some people that would ask Dana, how many pictures do I get? How soon will they be delivered? What if you can't get this photo? What if I don't like it? How many shots will you send me? And how many do I get to pick for you to, what do they call it? Polling them, right? That's one of the
Yeah,
words.
pulling
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yes. So there are definitely people that care about the offer, whether they bring it up at the beginning, the middle, or the end. But I would say the majority of why people buy, at least from me and from the people that buy from my clients, is the transformation you can provide customized to them. The offer is just the vehicle to get them there, and they need to be sold on that goal, that experience, that transformation you're helping them achieve first. And then usually we can talk about all the details of the offer, so they know how we're going to do it. I also think what Dana said is really important too about asking the right questions, which also change. I have a group program right now for summer sales. I had one last year. The questions, I didn't qualify well enough last year. The questions that I asked last year are totally different than the ones I asked this year because I want different people. So we can have a list of questions and then also know that as we change, as our ideal clients change, as what they want changes, our offers that we're selling change, the actual offer changes, those questions are going to change. What I often hear that I think we don't know can be turned into something productive is we're getting a lot of what we don't want, right? So if I'm talking to Molly and she's telling me all this stuff that isn't somebody that I would be able or willing to work with, we can take that and turn it around, flip it and reverse it into a positive. So I like to use millennial words here about red and green flags. So if you're getting a bunch of people you don't want, we can write all the reasons that we don't want them and then turn those into what we actually do want. And then we can ask questions around that. So if I'm hearing people say, I don't have the money, I don't have the money, or now isn't the right time, or why should I pick you? We can write that as a no. We can turn it into what we would want instead, that this is going to be an investment for me, but this goal was worth investing for. And then we can ask them that question. So how much of a priority is it for you to get this cake done by this date in this way, for example, if I'm making that up. And that can take us from a negative of all the things we don't want to a positive of the ideal clients or customers we do, and then ask questions that get us the exact answer to qualify whether we want this person or not. Yeah. What else was I gonna say? The
Awesome.
last thing I'll say about sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if everyone had any challenges when it came to sales or selling your products or your goodies.
Yeah, so since I'm in like the beginning of it, so like all of my clients are family right now, so they're like helping me come up with like good questions and strategies and things like that. So if I do have someone outside the family, I I do have the correct pitch or questions to ask them versus family. I'm like, oh, do you want this? And not all the clients say, oh, do you want this? And they would say, oh, like, what do you mean by you want this?
Yeah, and kind of get back into even Rowan, the more clients you get, right, the more you'll understand maybe what's popular,
Right.
like what's most common, or let's say someone's like, I have a baby shower. I don't know what desserts are best for a baby shower. And you'd be like, oh, well, these are the what people most commonly get, or here's my baby shower package of goodies or something for a certain guest count.
Right. It's because like when you wanted to order some cake pops for me, you asked like what were the kids' favorite flavors. So then I told you which flavors that uh, that were more kid popular versus
Just like a
adult.
flavor. Yeah, that's great. Even, yeah, I mean, each sale you get, I'm sure you already do that, but understanding, okay, why, what is this for? Is this for an event? Is this for, I think you asked me that, like what it's for, like what is the order for, right?
Mhm.
Like kind of learning more about that. Oh, I have kids that want some. Oh, well, here are the top, here are the best flavors for the kids. So I love that, and how you told me the best I can get, because I think that what's great about sales too is you don't want to give everyone all the options. You don't want to say, yeah, I have all these, you could choose one. You want to say, here's the most common, and break it down, because whenever I go to a restaurant and there's too many things to choose from, I'm like, I ask the waiter, what's your favorite thing? Because I don't want to do the whole choosing thing.
There's too many things to choose on a menu. It's just what's your top
Yeah,
picks?
because Rowan does all sorts of treats. And so I think when you kind of break it down to these are the most common this, or these, for this type of event, that really makes a difference in someone wanting to get a certain amount, and even trusting you of, I know you want a dozen, but I really feel like the best would be 3 dozen for you, because of
Oh,
this, right? Not for me. No, I'm not talking about the cake pups road, but I mean,
oh, right.
let's say I had 10 kids, and maybe you could say, maybe you'd want 2 dozen, or I would recommend this. Because then they trust you, and maybe it's outside of their budget, or it's outside of their what they think they would need. But when you tell them, here's what's common, right? I heard what you said about this. I think this would be a better option, right? So I love that. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I was on mute, but hey, you guys talking about cake pops is making me hungry. Think I'm gonna have to move up my dinner timeline. I think Dana, you're in Cali, right? You're on PST, Pacific
Yes.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, me,
Oh, Rowan.
I saw mine. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Go ahead. You all are still in like maybe afternoon dessert mode, and I'm thinking about dinner and dinner desserts now. But yeah, you all remind
Yes.
me of the Cheesecake Factory, which has one of the biggest menus I've ever seen. And there are other places that do as well. And I've been with my partner for a little over a year and a half. And once we got to know each other better, one of our love languages is like teasing. So he used to tell me, he was like, I've never known anyone that goes to a restaurant and all like continually asks for recommendations, not for the specials, but recommendations. But also, I'm a business owner and have been for 9 years and am back to like leading a team and growing the team again. I got to make decisions pretty quick all day. If someone can tell me if this chicken or that chicken is better, cool. I trust you. Let's go with the chicken that
Yeah.
you like. But yeah, I would say on options for business and not chicken, giving one or two and saying what's most popular and why that could work for them, I think is a really good strategy. And this leads into, I think, the next and maybe last discussion item. Like, I will turn people away, tell them to come back later, or downsell them and tell them why, if I'm not the right fit for them or we wouldn't be a right fit at this time. And that builds trust and makes sales like crazy. And I'll talk about that in just a second for an example
Oh
I
yeah, what's the
had.
next discussion question?
Yeah. Isn't this still on here? No, I think we're at the end.
There should
Yeah,
be
yeah,
one more.
here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, so active listening for customers' needs. This happens to me a lot in terms of just recommending the best option for them based on listening to them and what they say. So I had a client come to me. I love this client so much. I had a client who's a PR client. I'm mentioning all these people because I love them, but Confetti Creative is her fun public relations company. She's a lot of fun. She came to me and she wanted lead gen. She'd been like sniffing around my stories for a couple days. I messaged her and, like wanted to get to know her better, asked her about her, and she was like, "Thank you so much for messaging. I've been meaning to reach out, but I'm busy," which is great. It's a good start. She immediately told me, like, found you through a referral. I wanted to ask you about this and that for sales, et cetera, et cetera. And we talked a little bit about like what she needed, what would I be a good fit to help her. And then we got to the point we were talking about offers. And she'd never invested in sales before. And most of the savvy buyers that buy from me, whether they're making 10K a month or millions or whatever it is, are cautious about where they spend their money, who they're paying, what they're going to get, when they're going to get it, what experience and results have other people received. So it was her first time investing in a service like mine or somebody who provided sales support like I do. And she was like, this is very common for lots of businesses and for me with sales too. She wanted to, I think she even said this, like dip her toes in, right? So she wanted to start with something smaller, see how it went, and go from there. And my experience with sales, with marketing, and maybe you will see this in your own businesses, if we don't do kind of enough, we might not see anything. Or if we don't do enough, it's going to happen a whole lot slower if we can't stay consistent. And I was like, for what you need, based on what you've told me in the best course of action I'd recommend, I don't think that this would be a good fit because of A, B, and C. I think that this would get you here. It might get you 10 or 20% of the way. It might get you here in 3 months. But if you want to do what we talked about, which is get you to point A from in this month, this is what I recommend. So, I was talking to her about like, we can do my lowest cost option. I think for your needs, this is what I would best recommend. But I've also had people I did the opposite, that I like downsell them if I don't think they're ready for the big offer. They wouldn't be a good fit, or I can't offer it at that time. But anyways, because I listened to this client and she wanted to start small, and she said she kind of upsold herself, which is just that like I was leading her through this buying decision, but focusing on her. She ended up becoming like a $16,000 client. And originally she would have been a $300, $500 client just because I offered her the best option, whatever price that was. So she ended up buying a like 2 week thing. And then before the 2 weeks were up, she signed on for another 4 months. And then after that, she downsold and she was like, this isn't as big of a focus for me as it once was. My sales are going good. I want to take a step back. I want to work a little less. And so then we downsold to the, best option for her at that time. But yeah, just telling people what you would best recommend if they want your support with it, whether it means you get paid more or less or not at all, is sort of life changing, to be honest, because they know you're just there to help them and that you value them as a human and not for their credit card only.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so yeah, so like I've had a similar instance. Is one of my cousins, their sister also has a business. Yeah, also is a home baker, and they started off with her, but then they didn't like her pricing, and she wasn't listening very good. So then her sister referred her to me. So then I got her. So then she got mad at me. It's because it was one of her friends, and I didn't know the person. So now she kind of has a bad rap about me since I took one of her clients because she wasn't listening to her client.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like that too, right? We can use kind of like surface level terms like they weren't a good fit, but also sometimes you sign somebody on and then change your mind about what parts of the work you want to do, or if you want to work with them, or what we've been talking about a lot, if you have time for them. If we're rushing through our lead conversations, our client conversations, if we literally don't have the time to focus the mental like space and clarity to give them what they need and want, but also what we've promised to deliver, then that person was probably not a good fit because the other person didn't have time for them. The provider, that baker, didn't have time for them at that time, or just has different listening styles and bandwidth of what they're willing to give, etc. So I totally understand how that could be a tricky situation, but also it sounds like maybe that client ended up with the best provider for this period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then since then she's came back to me 2 other times, and so and she's not using the sister anymore. So
Gotcha. Well, it's good. It's good that you were able to listen, even if it was a tricky situation.
yeah, yeah, things like that when they're in like through the family, and it gets a little tricky sometimes. So
Yes. Yeah. I can relate to, so I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad and my brother are both multi entrepreneurs, or even I would say serial entrepreneurs. So we talk about business with each other and give recommendations and swap referrals, etc. And my partner the other day was like, "Are you sure you want to recommend your friend and business friend over to your family? What if it doesn't go so well?" spoiler alert, it didn't go so well. He didn't make a good impression. It wasn't the right fit. So I can understand the tricky dynamics there for sure, Rowan.
Yes, trying to word it right without making them upset or it sound hurtful or anything like that.
Yeah.
I can give an example of the elopement sector of my company is with elopements. That's why understanding your client is so important, even before you get on a call or before you talk to them. Because I think active listening is not just during a sales call, but active listening to clients when they're posting in Facebook groups, on Reddits, on, just continually understanding what they're saying in the community and in places where they're finding support. But with elopements, a lot of people have misconceptions around elopements, thinking it's a watered down wedding, and they just said, "Oh, I need an hour of coverage. That's all I need. I'm just gonna get married in a courthouse, and that's dark and dreary, and that's all I can do." And a lot of people just don't know what they can do, and that it's possible. It can be very simple. And so when I know that, and I have someone on a call, and they say I only need 2 hours, and I say, okay, well, let me just get some more information from you, right? Listen to them and what they want. And our approach of, oh, I do want makeup and hair, oh, I do want a nice dinner, right? Of, with our 10 family members or something, or I do want to explore this area a little bit more. And so I kind of understand what they're saying. And sometimes with those type of clients, they're so limited, they don't even know if they could have more. And so that's why I lay out a day of what a day would look like, right? And because I know what they need beforehand, I'll lay it out a 6 hour elopement day, what a 6 hour elopement day would look like, making it the dreamiest possible with a luxury picnic, with an intimate dinner, with 3 different locations in the beautiful location. And therefore, talking about our approach as well and how we approach that day. And most people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do that. I don't know how simple that could be. Wow, I didn't know I needed that. That's what I need though. And so it's interesting how like a regular traditional wedding call in my company and an elopement call are very, very different on how we approach it. They're two separate clients, two very different clients with two different needs and two different problems, right? And with elopement couples, they need a planner and photographer minimum, right? And they need someone to show them what they could have in a simple way and in a stress-free way. And so that's just I just wanted to talk about, the different strategies that happen and active listening that happens with those two different type of couples and their needs. And I think those are some of my favorite calls ever because it's really fun to blow people's minds of what is possible for them. But once I understood how to navigate those calls and really show them and not just tell them, I think that's a big difference is showing somebody and not just telling them what they need or what they could have. I think we talked about that in the beginning of telling through just logistics and package line items, right? But
Yeah.
showing through a client example or showing through, a gallery, photo gallery, or a timeline, for example, for my company. And we show them what it could be and turn that back around. And I'm sure Alyssa, you do that a lot, is showing them where they could be or where they could be when they do these certain steps. Basically who they could be or what they could be with your service. And that really blows people's minds in many ways of, oh, I can't have this, I can't have this. And she makes it sound so simple, right? Sounds something that I can trust and will take me through this step by step. And so I want to share that example of kind of that different strategy with that different sales call and how to actively listen before you get on a call and understand your clients.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the simplicity too. Yeah, like I said, I think earlier it's changed my business so much. I'm in a less is more era and the summer is busy. If we have someone who is interested, we do have permission or even implied permission, right? If somebody's on a call with Dana, a sales call, then they want to know what she can provide them. That's what I would call implied permission in that situation. But yeah, we want to make it simple for them once we know they're interested of how we can get there, but more on like the steps we're going to walk a human through together and less like you're going to get 3 calls, you're going to get this much chat support, you're going to get 82 and a half pictures, et cetera, et cetera. that stuff is important, and it'll come up at least at the end when you say, can I answer any questions for you? If you don't know if you have any questions, do we think we're clear on this, that, and the other? Do we need to talk about how many pictures? Do we need to talk about how many candles or icing flavors on the cake, etc.? But the simplicity, I think, to get people in is so important because I mean, we live in a really busy, crazy world. So if we can tell someone who is interested, here's exactly how I can help you from A to B, and we can talk about the steps we would take together, that's invaluable. And the other thing I was going to say, just for like timeline and future pacing, is a phrase I like a lot to show someone how we can get from A to B. In terms of sales, which is, what this is all about, active listening for our relationships and in business and relationships that can lead to new clients and sales, your sales can change so quickly. And really, people love this when I say it. If we're struggling to make sales, if we're doing well making sales, if we're somewhere in between, if we haven't made sales in a long time, your sales can change so quickly. And really, I swear it takes one. If I'm looking to get new clients, if I need new clients, if I need more doll hairs in my bank account, if I get one client or one big one, if I get that one and I am able and willing and do talk about that to others publicly and privately, that gives us this like unstoppable confidence that we can get more. That's what changes my sales so quickly. I had a really shitty 6 months of Q4 last year and Q1 this year for sales. And that also goes to say that the majority of my leads and community did as well, which is why they couldn't afford what they once did, economy, et cetera, et cetera. And then it changed so quickly when I got one big $16,000, big for me, $16,000 contract. And after I got that one and started talking about it, then it was like when it rains, it pours, but in a good way. Then they just keep coming and coming and coming and coming because I worked my ass off to get one that was the right client and I listened to what he needed and offered him the help that would help get him there. And then I could publicly talk about it. Even people get so hung up on this. Even if I can't, in some cases, even if you can't use their name or talk about their company or talk about how you know them, you can still say, like, I helped Dana could be like client D, Rowan could be client R, or I helped a client like this without revealing any details. But getting that one and being willing to talk about how you are going to or are helping them, or even clients you've helped before, can change your sales so quickly and get you more people you do want if you talk about one that you already did get that you wanted. And
Awesome.
that's all I have to
Yeah, I love the
say.
momentum.
I
Awesome.
don't think there's more slides, right? I think we
No,
got to the
this is
end.
it. And
Okay.
I think we're good. I mean, we had a really good conversation about sales. Alyssa, obviously, as you can tell, is very knowledgeable about sales. She is your sales queen, and especially human first sales. I mean, you'll see her Instagram in the description all over. And she's even in the emails and everything you'll see. You can connect with her there and learn more from her. And Alyssa is going to be doing a few more workshops in the next coming months. She'll be doing her own workshop that's very specific with her strategy coming up soon, and also other conversations talking about sales. So if you want to see her again, stay tuned to our events and our emails. You want to be on these calls, on these Zoom calls. And if you want to be on these Zoom calls, you could join the Society Gal Academy. We send emails out every single week to join. If you want to be in the Zoom room, we would love to have you on here and get, free mentorship from Alyssa. She's amazing. So, Alyssa, is there anything else you want to say before we get off?
I'll just shout Dana out back as well. So I think I've known you since maybe 2016 when I started my business, or known of Society Gal. But before, Dana and I even talked about me being on the podcast, doing a workshop, et cetera, et cetera. I was already in the Facebook group, and now I'm in the Society Gal membership as well, the Longevity membership. So if you all want to come join, I'm in there with you, doing lots of things that you guys are already doing and going towards the goals that we want to go to. So feel free to come find me in there. I love Society Gal, again, OG fangirl over here. And yeah, please direct message me. I try to get into the DMs at least like once or twice a day. I love to be in them outside. So you will find me in there, and anyone is welcome to message me there. And if you'd like, just let me know that you came to me through the workshop so I know how we found each other. And I